MLA in-text citations. MLA in-text citations are a way of citing our sources. This is a great way to avoid plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you use someone else's work and claim it to be yours. So when you are citing your sources, it shows that you are honest and it shows where you found your information. In-text citations are when you connect information that you borrow from a source to a citation in your works cited page. A works cited page is where we're going to have all of the information from the citations that we use in our essays. In other forms of citation, this is called the bibliography, but this is a list of sources referred to in an academic work. So here we see an example. If I were to be referencing a Harry Potter novel in my works cited page. When do I include an in-text citation? So whenever I use a quote word for word from a text, I'm going to want to use an in-text citation. And anytime that I'm borrowing an idea from someone else, if it is not my original idea, I am going to have to use an in-text citation. So you'll have a little quiz here asking you what do you include in an in-text citation. Once you answer that, go ahead and move on. There are 4 parts in an in-text citation for printed text, which would be short stories or books. You would have an open parentheses, the author's last name, the page number, and a closed parentheses, like you see here, parentheses Murphy, 27, parentheses. And when you need to place the period, you place it outside of the parentheses because the in-text citation is a part of your sentence. And you'll have another quiz check-in. Where does the period go in an in-text citation? You can always go back to your slides and review if you're confused. Direct quotations are when you use a source word for word. You need to use quotation marks around it. This is a direct quote, and we have an example down below. So if it's word for word from a book or a short story or a magazine, you're going to want to use quotation marks around what you're using. An example from The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. We have a quote here that is directly from his story, and we see that the passage is found on page 66, but there are a few things missing which we will ask you to complete in the question asked here. The following passage is a direct quote. Rewrite the passage using the correct in-text citations, and you have all your information above. When we talk about paraphrasing, you are explaining something from a story in your own words. So you don't need to include quotation marks, but you do need to include in-text citations. So here we see a paraphrase version of a Harry Potter statement from J.K. Rowling's book on page 12. And we have another open-ended question. And that is going to be to paraphrase the following passage. Rewrite the following passage in your own words. And you will also be adding MLA in-text citations. This is a quote from Gary Soto's 7th grade, and we're going to assume that the passage is on page number 3. And you'll have your open-ended question. And we'll talk about electronic text for online articles and websites. You only need the author's last name in parentheses. You don't need to include page numbers, and we have an example from an online article / website here, and we see that we only have the last name. What if there's no author? Sometimes an online article won't have the author's name written on the web page, so you will use a shortened version of the article's name, only using the first 3 to 5 words, excluding words like the or a. And we see an example below, just 3 words letting us know what the article is called. So then you'll have another quick quiz question. If an article or a website does not list an author, which should you include in your in-text citation? And then you will finish that up and move on to the next slide. Write a direct quote of an online article. So you'll be asked again to fill out from the New York Times, How TikTok is Rewriting the World by John Herman. Quote the following passage using an MLA in-text citation. So check out what's missing, and then you'll answer that in the next slide. Text on Google Classroom. So if a short story on Google Classroom has a page number, please include it. If it doesn't, just add the author's last name, as we see the example below from 11. In summary, after rewriting a passage in quotation marks, include in-text citations in parentheses followed by a period. We have both options for print text, which are books or short stories, and online articles.